So since November 1st, I've been creating some videos that really prime us to work on our lives, to think about our lives, to look at our lives, evaluate where we're at, so that we're ending the year strong. And at that time when we're setting New Year's resolutions and goals and new habits, that it really comes from an informed place rather than just trying to like change and wipe the slate clean, kind of change the bad from the good. Because I think that if you're watching this, there's probably a lot of good happening in your life. And I think that starting from a place where things are working is a much more powerful place than starting from like, oh my God, things are so bad, I just have to recreate things. So I've talked about changing our blueprint and really looking at our values as opposed to the stuff and the things and the symptoms of what's going on in our life. And so as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I'm going to spend the next 12 days looking at each area of life in the Wheel of Life, which is a tool that I've been using forever. It's actually printed in the Illumin Life directory, and I'll put a link into a form that you can print out. At any rate, I wanted to look at these different areas because what we'll find out when we look at our whole life is that, one, it's a mixed bag. Like, not all areas are usually doing really, really well. There's usually a few areas that we want to create some change or some movement or some amplification, or there's some stagnation for whatever reason. And it's usually that there's some areas that are doing really, really well. So it's a really good thing to look at your life as a whole. Sum of the parts is greater than the whole. So I think that's a really interesting way to look at our life. So the area I wanted to start with is actually an area that I always seem to score either low on, or I just don't quite know how to access it, and that is the area of adventure. I think I never really thought of myself as super adventurous. I think being a yoga teacher, I tend to stay away from what people might consider adventure, like skydiving or skiing or things that could really lead to some kind of injury. So actually this year I had a lot of adventure. We bought tickets for Europe in December of 2017. We planned the departure and the arrival date, and everything else was yet to be determined. And so we actually had quite a fun time from like January through April or May, when we were still finalizing some of the details of our trip. We were going round trip to Frankfurt, and then between there I knew I needed to be at a conference. The other thing that I knew was that where we were going for this conference in Sardinia is a blue zone, and I had done some research. I had heard of blue zones for a while and knew that they were the areas in the world that were identified as having the highest number of people who live to 100. And so I really wanted to experience that blue zone, and I knew it wasn't like where the conference was being held. I knew that it was in a different part of Sardinia, so that was part of our adventure. And then secondly, neither one of us had ever done study abroad, which is a very common thing in college, and neither one of us actually knew that was a real option. And so we called this summer our work abroad, and it was really fun because we had rented hotels and Airbnbs and scheduled work days for us, but they would just be in different countries and different places. And what that really opened up for was just our ability to do our work in a different place. And so that was actually quite a sense of adventure. So I am actually going to be making shorter videos but have longer content so that you can spend a lot more time focusing on your area, on this area of life, and really thinking through some of the questions that I have to offer. And what I really want to do is set us up to really have a clear sense of our life as a whole. So in the area of adventure, instead of like, where do I want to go, I really try to think of, what does adventure even mean to me? Is it about the miles that I travel, or is it about the feeling that I get when I'm there? And is it about the people that I'm with, or is it about the kind of experience or length of time. So it's not about like our typical, I'm gonna go on a trip to Africa for 2 weeks. Like it could be, I'm gonna have an adventure to explore and learn something every year. And one year it might be Africa, another year it might be doing a coaching program. And just like what pulls you out of your ordinary and takes you to a new height, a new way of looking at things, because that's really what adventure is. Maybe it's figuring something out. Maybe it's like this past year, Jason actually completed building a guitar that he started a long time ago. But I mean, that was quite an adventure, and seeing it evolve every year. So I'm going to add some questions to the email as well as the YouTube comments so that you can really work on what is adventure for you and how do you want it to show up in your life. Good luck with this process. Feel free to email me about anything if you have questions, if you have clarification or want some more ideas on how to explore each of these areas.